Alright guys, and welcome back to the Saints View, the channel for Southampton content for the first match preview of the 2019-2020 season. We are back with match content. It's been a 2-month wait, it's been so long, but we're back with our match content. I cannot wait for pre-season matches start now, and we're ever so close to the brand new Premier League season. And it all kicks off with a friendly against SCR Altach in Austria on Sunday. Now this is the match preview and preferred 11. We'll get into the preferred 11 a bit later on, but before we even get into anything, do make sure you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed yet. Turn notifications on so you don't miss anything more throughout the rest of pre-season and as the season starts. Make sure you're also following us on our socials so you don't miss any extra little bits and pieces. Right, now let's get into the video. So starting off with the preview side of things, obviously Southampton have been out in Austria for the last week on a training camp, their first week away as they prepare for the 2019-2020 season. A lot more players came back this week after international commitments earlier on in the summer. Some players had come back the week before and had a week at Staplewood. That included loanies such as Cedric and Hoyt, they'd come back. And then this week, players like Redmond, Ward-Prowse, Højbjerg have come back after their international commitments. Now, of course, it's double sessions in the second week of pre-season. Some of these players, their first week of pre-season. Of course, they've had their own personal regimes to go over their holidays, but not nearly as vigorous as what Ralph Hasenhüttl wants to put his players through, as we look to have a much better season than the last couple in the Premier League. And of course, Austria, it seems like nice weather over there at the moment, but also good for morale. You know, we've seen them go hiking. Those videos with the cows, it's quite funny. You know, group photo. I really think that the squad is quite tight, and Hasenhüttl really makes sure that that's the case. We've had a lot of discussion this week about players that were left out. That's what mainly Charlie Austin, Mario Lemina. Lemina looking like he might go to Manchester United now, putting out those compilations, making silly comments. It's just really stupid overall from Lemina, to be honest with you. But the players who do want to play for Southampton are there, they're working hard, they're fighting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them play. And that first game to see our team in action for the first time in 2 months comes against Austrian Bundesliga side SCR Altach. Now, a little bit of insight on Altach. They didn't do too well in the Austrian Bundesliga last season, but did enough to survive. The way it works, I think, is split in half. The top 6 teams play against each other for their title, and then the bottom 6 teams play against each other to fight relegation. It's something like that, but basically Altach did absolutely fine, but they've got no Europe. They're quite an average Austrian Bundesliga side, so I'm not expecting the level of opposition quality to be that high. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, a win would boost morale, but then you'd also like to see the players push through and given them quite a difficult test. Although we'll see, of course, Altach might put out a decent performance, and of course this is the first game for these players since coming back from their holiday, so match fitness won't be nearly as good as what it should be for the Premier League. You expect that anyway. They might have done extra work and they might actually be near match fitness for a Premier League match, but I think what Hasenhüttl will do is treat it like a Premier League match and take it really seriously. Of course, it's a 26-man squad out there in Austria. I'm not too sure whether all 26 players will be involved in this game, but of course it's a friendly, meaning that you have more than 3 substitutions available. In fact, it may be unlimited. And that's where we go into the preferred 11 side of things. For me, I think the preferred 11 for this one is definitely a mix of youngsters and first team players, and maybe even ex-loanies who haven't played for Southampton for a while, and we haven't really seen if there's been any development yet or not. This team that I would like to see start is only the team that would start. It doesn't include substitutes. I expect a completely different 11 to come on in the second half on Sunday, but this is the team that I'd like to see maybe start or even come on afterwards in the second half. But they're players that I'd like to see, and sort of I'm quite curious to observe as to how well they do for us. Starting off in goal, I'd like to see Fraser Forster start. That is because it looks like Alex McCarthy could be off. Aston Villa are interested in him, and so Fraser Forster is going to be our number 2. He needs to play well because we'll put him in the cup here and there. We might even need him in the league, and we need to see whether he's up to this grade. At right back, I'd like to see Cedric. He's obviously spent the second half of last season on loan at Inter Milan. Didn't do too well there. The fans didn't really appeal to him, and he only sort of played their Europa League games and every now and then in the Serie A. He's had good days and bad days for Southampton. It's been a very inconsistent time for him, so I'd like to see him start. I do expect him to either be sold or start the season as number 2 to Jan Valery. I'm very confident that Valery is the first choice right back at the moment, but Cedric of course needs to fight for his place, and I think we need to see what Cedric can do, because under Hughes and Pellegrino he was quite a bit of a scapegoat because he didn't perform well, but not many players did perform that well over that sort of year and a half. Centre back partnership I'd like to see is Yannick Vestergaard and Wesley Hoyt. Stop the hate, I know I said Wesley Hoyt, but we have to remember that he's been away for 6 months on loan at Celta Vigo. Of course he didn't do well at Celta Vigo, the fans really did not appeal to him, as the Southampton fans haven't really appeased to him either over here. He's a massive scapegoat, but you know, I think we have to give him some sort of chance. Harness was obviously included him in the squad. If he was going to be sold straight away, he wouldn't have been included in this squad, and I think we have to give him some sort of a chance. Vestergaard, self-explanatory. For me, our second choice centre back at the moment, but could easily be the first choice. Jan Bednarek just pips him at the moment in my opinion, but of course we need to see the Vestergaard we saw in the latter stages of the season. Tall, physical, present, can put in a tackle here and there, as opposed to the Vestergaard we saw at the beginning of the season, who was very, very slow, couldn't read the game at all, missed his tackles, and was just all round a poor defender. At left back I'd like to see Jake Vokins. Of course we've now sold Matt Targett, and Sam McQueen was not included in this squad, meaning that there's a pathway for young Jake Vokins. He's not made a first team appearance yet, but it looks very likely that he could be involved in the first team this season now, as potentially back up to Ryan Bertrand now that Targett's gone for Aston Villa. I'm very interested to see how he plays. I haven't really seen him play at all, in all honesty, so I don't know what he's got in his locker. But if he can succeed in this game and play a few more friendlies and do well, then I'm very confident that he'll be a decent number 2 for us. Assuming this is a 4-2-2-2 shape, my midfielders would be Oriol Romeu and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Probably a first choice partnership when it comes to the actual Premier League campaign that starts in a few weeks' time. We don't really have that many midfielders in there that I think are real quality. Will Smallbone would be an interesting one. He's been included in the last couple of pre-season tours over the last 2 seasons or so. So he obviously looks like one for the future. He's done quite well with the under-23s. So I'd like to see him at some point. But for this purpose, I'd like to see Romeu and Højbjerg. See how they cope with the intensity, if they're up to match fitness already, because they could definitely improve on what they did last season. Obviously Højbjerg was spectacular, but you know, he's still very young, and a full season under Hasenhüttl, you know, you have to worry for opposition teams because he could be an absolute monster. As for Oriol Romeu, very consistent, always tackles, usually gets booked, a decent passer, you know, all round good player, and we're going to have to get used to him again if it is Lamina who gets sold in the end. Now just in front of them, sort of in winger positions, I've put Sims and Elyounoussi. That is because they're both wingers who didn't do too well last season. Sims only really started playing for Southampton in March. That's because he went on loan to Reading, came back in January, didn't get a chance until the Spurs game. Obviously we won, and he played very well in that game, and also he played well when we played against Wolves and beat them. But after that it really sort of deteriorated for him. A few substitute appearances here and there that just did not go well at all. So his Saints career for me is up in the air a little bit. As for Elyounoussi, I think the less said about him the better. He's been included in this squad. It doesn't look like we're going to sell him, which is fine if he can prove himself to be a bench warmer, come on and make an impact through the season. But he really needs to kick off his Southampton. If he can put in a good performance, pretty average side that will be playing on Sunday, then that's the start of something potentially that could be good for the new season, where he has some sort of say in what we do throughout the Premier League season. Finally up front, I've put the partnership of Michael Obafemi and new signing Che Adams. I think the Obafemi selection is mainly because he's been injured since February. We need to see whether he's come on leaps and bounds at all, how fit is he, because he looks like a really promising player. Obviously he's only just turned 19, so he's still very young, has a lot of potential, but it's holding that potential that we need to do. And if he can have a good performance to start off his pre-season, that'd be fantastic. I think the Che Adams one is pretty obvious. Brand new signing, very excited about him. For me, the first choice striker at the moment at the club. We need to get him going with these players, and so I'd love to see him start, make his debut, and maybe score a goal or two, see what he's about. Alright guys, that is the end of the video. We are back. I cannot wait matches to start again. Let us know your score predictions down below. I've got no clue with this one, so I'm going to go for a very random 3-0 win to Southampton. I have not got a clue what's going to happen in this one. That's sort of the benefits of pre-season friendlies, I guess. Also let us know in the comment section below who you would start or you'd like to see play in the game on Sunday. because obviously starting isn't necessarily the case, because I don't think anyone will be given 90 minutes. It's a case of who's going to play, who's going to feature, and who's going to get significant minutes, maybe 45, even 60 potentially. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet already, follow us on our socials, and we'll see you in the next one.